what we do is that we take a look at whether people have experience with the test or know something about the test. The purpose of this is really to dismiss prior sets or inappropriate sets or problem-solving sets and establish the correct one, which is basically, there's some ink blots, I'm going to show them to you, and I want you to tell me what they look like to you. So that's the, if they say yes, briefly discuss their experiences. So if I'm doing a conditional release evaluation for a violent offender, and I said, have you heard about the Rorschach, heard about the ink blot test before or taken it? And they'll say yes. And I said, tell me about, what do you remember about it? I remember that I was supposed to, everything I saw I was supposed to mention and tell them. And I said, well, I'm not sure what they told you the last time, but this time I'm going to show you a series of ink blots, and I want you to tell me what they look like to you. Okay? And so I'm not so concerned of exploring that previous set or that previous experience or that recollection. What I want to do is just get it out and have a little discussion about it, and then excuse it, dismiss it, and try to replace it with the proper set. Okay? A lot of times what they remember is not what they were told. It's kind of like what they recreate the memory. So, and that it may be through the internet or in a newspaper or whatever they may have seen it. You can find the material on the net about how to fake or how to fake good on the Rorschach much more quickly than a naive subject can. Okay, we've done some research about that, and they don't find it very quickly. It's sort of like you have to know what you're looking for and what the terms are and all that sort of stuff. What happens in those sort of situations when you have people look at these things for real time, in real time, is that they end up with global stuff about custody evals or something. I'm talking mostly about custody evals. They don't find it that quickly. On the other hand, they can, and they may be successful, and they may be coached to find it, but on their own, it takes some of the skill that we have to be able to figure out where to go on that, or at least for faking the Rorschach. They end up with general advice kind of stuff, or fathers get a raw deal site or something like that, and it's more global or something. They do, but I don't know. Okay, we talked a little bit about this, and it's really, do you understand, does that make sense, is a little bit too ambiguous or provocative. And there's the introduction. Try to give two responses or maybe three to each card. And you'll notice it says dot, dot, dot. The idea is we like 23. And so we're favoring 2. We're not favoring 3, and that's what that pause is. Or maybe 3. Okay? Greg Meyer and I thought we didn't experiment with only getting 2 responses per card, and we didn't go that route. Keep in mind that John Exner, when in the late 60s, early 70s, when he was designing his system, went through a similar process of whether or not he was going to restrict the range of R. He decided not to. Okay? He decided not to because he was getting a standard deviation of about 4. And most of his records were 18 to 27. Okay? And when he looked at the literature, that the variation that Baum and other people had reported through the literature earlier, he wasn't seeing that, so he decided not to restrict R and to stick with the Rorschach's actual instructions, which were the ones Klopford used. When you look at the data, and the best data about this internationally is that international supplement to the Journal of Personality Assessment published in 2007, and in that data, that the standard deviation was about 7. And then the standard deviation was quite large in other non-patient samples and control samples. And so that given that we had a much bigger distribution, we decided it's important to constrain R. And that's basically the discussions that we had in the data that we looked at. Avoid saying ink blots are ambiguous or unstructured. That just leads to more questions. There's no right or wrong answers. Try not to say that. It's really different people see different things, kind of thing. And that most people do X, Y, and Z, then there's sort of a demand do not mislead the client as thinking that imagination and creativity is being tested. In that chapter 3, again, there are a number of these kinds of questions and the types of answers that we give.